the Obama 2008 campaign was really a textbook case of how to put social media to work for political purposes.
We saw this, for example, in President Obama's campaign, that if you can mobilize many, many people in very small amounts, you can foment a very, very big amount of money very quickly.
Everyone is going through a huge learning curve right now.
Well, certainly social media tools can be used in the pursuit of democracy, but also regimes such as that of China monitor their content and can use them for repressive ends as well.
Governments around the world are going to have this choice. How do you stifle this type of revolution, this type of change? And one of the ways to do that is to impose greater and greater tools upon internet traffic to remove, for example, content, to charge for content so that people can't afford it, to erect firewalls, and essentially end up killing the dissemination of information for the sake of some short-term security.
I think that governments in countries like Burma and China and elsewhere, Zimbabwe, are thinking very carefully about trying to control these media.
There's two sides. Of course, people can identify protesters using social media, and we saw that happen in Iran, where they went and looked at YouTube footage and what have you. But I think that by the time it reaches sort of that critical boiling point, the autocracy usually is not aware of, has not been aware of the conversations that have been happening.
We've seen that in Iran, for example, where there are accusations of Western firms providing the technology for what was called deep packet surveillance, or in other words, going well into the data stream and either catching data in progress. So, for example, if you typed in SMS text, let's meet for a protest, they would be able to capture that text and either delete it or alter it so it sent you to another location. So the technology is out there.
I think that we've seen a landmark political change in the world, and there's no going back. And they will force governments either to be more responsive or more technologically repressive.
One might look at China and point to China as the great example of using internet media to allow communication but to also prevent it. And one has to look at the flip side of the coin. What's the cost to China of attempting to filter all this information, gigabits of information on a daily basis? And the estimates I've seen are not thousands, but tens of thousands of state employees. How long can that apparatus run? As information becomes costless, it becomes harder to make secret. And we've seen that, for example, in WikiLeaks with the United States. It merely takes one individual exporting information out of a secure environment, and then you see that information propagate across the internet. So governments are going to be faced with a very significant choice. Do they continue to attempt to classify information? And by classifying, I mean attempting to increase the cost for public to access it. Or do they say information is not going to hurt people? We talk about the vulnerability of software, so we have virus protection. We talk about the vulnerability of services. So we, for example, stand up a cyber defense command or an equivalent. We talk about hacktivism in terms of non-state actors. We talk about all these things, but they are all talking about the distribution of ones and zeros. At the end of the day, if I cut transatlantic cables, if I destroy server farms physically, then I have the same impact as those software attacks. And there's only a limited amount of cables out there.